Every offseason, I feel more and more like Phil Connors from Groundhog Day because I constantly am reminding the college football public Missouri's not a bad football team. They're coming off back-to-back double-digit win seasons with Eli Drinkowitz. They did a good job of replacing talent in the transfer portal. They have an identity on offense and defense, a good foundation, a manageable schedule, and if all things go according to plan with 10 wins, that's good enough to get you to the college football playoff in the SEC. And it can happen out in Como this year. But the Tigers have to answer these three questions in spring practice if they want to make it to that level. So let's break it all down. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, smash that subscribe button because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, link in the description. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is fueled by FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So lay down $5, win that bet, you get $150 back in bonus bets. What's not to love? Join in the madness today at FANDUEL.com/SECU. Three major questions for Missouri going into this year. I think that they're very easy when you break it all down. Question number one, what is Bo Pabula's ceiling? Because we know what his floor is. He comes on in from Penn State, 2 years of being the backup to Drew Aller. He was used in a various different type of way, depending on who was the offense coordinator, and there was some success. You look at his numbers, over 400 passing yards, 9 touchdowns against 1 interception. He has over 500 rushing yards, 10 total touchdowns on the ground, and an average of 6.1 yards per play. So we know he's mobile. We know that he has the intangibles to improve as a passer, and he's played in a prime time location out in State College. My question is, how much more can we get from him? And what are he and Kirby Moore going to be able to talk about this offseason to where they take that next step forward? Brady Cook, solid quarterback, did his job, led the Tigers to back-to-back double-digit win seasons, the pride of Como. He's off to the NFL, and it's all about taking that next step forward. What if Pabula, much like Cook, keeps that mobility, utilizes his legs, steps on up in the pocket, realizes that his third read isn't there, picks up a first down, and then continues to drive to where you're culminating points, yards, time of possession. You're winning in those micro areas that eventually lead you to a victory on Saturday, whether it's in Como or on the road. What if we watch him build as a passer? We don't know what his entire arm strength is because a lot of the plays that he was running with the Nittany Lions were designed plays for him to utilize his best assets, which are his legs. What if his accuracy improves? During his time in State College, he completed 74.3% of his passes last year and 52.4% of his passes as a freshman. So what if next season he's completing 77% of his passes? And there may be dink and dunk passes to where you get the ball out to Kevin Coleman or Josh Manning or Marquise Johnson, but you're moving the sticks. What if there's so much more untapped underneath his potential that he is firing 20-yard darts down the field and he's making it look easier in Kirby Moore's system? With the run game that you have in Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy, you throw that in with the weaponry that is unknown because they're all basically having to step on up as the new number one. If Pabula can take that necessary step forward in Kirby Moore's system and master the minor things, he could be ahead of schedule. And then when you look at that week 4 matchup against South Carolina, a game that many people out in Missouri thought should have been won by the Tigers, maybe that's the revenge factor that sets you off on a tone, keeps your undefeated season alive, and carries you that much closer towards another victory against a top 25 team, like in Alabama or Texas A&M later on in the season. If Pabula can actually hit his stride and live up to the expectations that he had when he was coming out of high school and be that focal point of the Tigers offense moving forward, we are talking about this Missouri team having stability in the interior offensive line. Question marks at the tackle position, but they did add 2 veterans via the portal. And you feel like that maybe this team can take that necessary step forward. They won't be able to win every single battle, but here's what I will say. That mobility, the ability to understand where pressure is coming from, to step on up, tuck and run, that is a blessing in disguise that Missouri has in its back pocket. Question number 2, who is the best supporting cast members? I already know that Kevin Coleman is going to break on out. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and click the link right up here. We went and talked about Kevin Coleman as my big-time breakout player in the SEC for 2025. And he was phenomenal at Mississippi State, over 900 receiving yards, led the team in catches, 5 100-yard performances for the Bulldogs. He can be that guy and that X factor for a guy like Bo Pabula or whoever is the starting quarterback for that matter. But how do you feel about this secondary wide receiver position? Because the beauty of what worked for Kirby Moore's offense the last few years was you had a Batman and a Robin. And the dynamic duo would kick gas and take names and beat the brakes off of everyone to oblivion. And Luther Burden was that Batman. But you always knew that you could trust a guy like Theo Weiss Jr. as the Robin, or eventually the Nightwing. He could be your secondary target, to where if you lost to Luther Burden for several games, no problem whatsoever. We know that a guy like Theo Weiss, he could step on up. So what do teams start to have to pinpoint? Hey, number 3, Kevin Coleman. We know that he is going to break us. We know that he is going to be their deciding factor. He will be able to torch us left and right if we let him. So let's go ahead and double team him. Who do you feel like is the next guy stepping on up? Is it Joshua Manning? Very limited role in 2024, but could have all the impeccable upside in 2025. What about Marquise Johnson? He averaged 14.9 yards per catch last year, and there were multiple plays where him and Brady Cook nearly connected for 6 points, but unfortunately the ball was either overthrown or it was a drop pass. Can he take that necessary step forward? Is it an incoming freshman? Is it somebody that we haven't even talked about? Is it Brett Norfleet, the tight end, 6'7", red zone mismatch nightmare, moving the sticks and putting you in a positive position? Is that what we're talking about with a guy like Norfleet? Who is that number 2? When you look at the SEC, everyone has a legit X-factor receiver or an X-factor weapon, whether it's the ground game, the wide receiver on the outside, the slot receiver, the tight end play. But the teams that end up pushing themselves into the conversation for a college football playoff bin, they got a secondary punch. Alabama has it. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. Best believe Auburn's going to have it. Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman. Texas will have it. Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. Missouri can be right in that conversation. You got your Batman. I promise you, Kevin Coleman's going to live up to expectations. He will be as advertised coming into Como that he was from Starkville. But who is that necessary number 2 receiver? Can you establish that relationship with Pabula or whoever is the starting quarterback by the end of spring practice, going into fall camp, knowing that these two, they're my go-tos? And then the third guy, we're going to go ahead and build him up to speed. We'll get him comfortable. He'll eventually become part of a trifecta that helps us win every single game and make a run for the postseason. We feel really good about that. And when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. Even if you miss the first few minutes of a game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets with your first $5 bet win. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Disclaimer: must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, and 18 plus in DC. First online real money wagers only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issues with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, back to the show. Question number 3. Can the defense take another step forward? What are the more underlying things that really stabilized Missouri's defense last year? Was the hiring of Corey Batoon. They were the backbone for the Tigers in multiple games, keeping it a one-score possession. The Auburn game is especially, in my opinion, one of the biggest selling points that Corey Batoon was the right hire. You lose Brady Cook. You have to go ahead and trust that Drew Pine is going to be your quarterback. And instead of allowing Auburn to run a rampant over you, you force turnovers. You create 3 and outs. You put yourself in a positive position to where at least your offense stands a fighting shot. And they did that against Vanderbilt. And they did that in the first half against Alabama. And they did that against Oklahoma. And they did that against Arkansas. It proved, in my opinion, that Corey Batoon was not in over his skis coming on in from South Alabama. And he's got another year to work with a good foundation in place. Multiple starters are back. Zion Young is back. Chris McClellan is back. Tristan Newsome is back. Marvin Burks is going to have a bigger role at strong safety. Drayden Norwood is back. But you also brought in newcomers. Guys like Stephen Hall from Washington State. Can he push a guy like Toriano Pride to be that much better in man coverage, to create those opportunities to where you're forcing 3 and outs on the regular, where you're blanketing a wide receiver number 2? You lose a guy like Johnny Walker. You bring in a guy like Damon Wilson from Georgia, one of the premier pass rushers coming out of high school that might just be hitting his stride now playing in this joker position. Can he add pressure to the backfield? Can he be a more constant force getting to the quarterback to throw under duress, leading to turnovers, or at least leading to punts instead of points? Do you have that guy? Does he feel like he's taking the necessary step forward? What about Josiah Trotter now replacing Corey Flagg? This is a young emerging superstar, comes from a football background with the Trotter family that played in Philadelphia for years. Can he be that enforcer in the middle? Can he be your green dot general? Can he take that necessary step to where he's calling plays, he's checking audibles, he's seeing what the change is at the line of scrimmage, and he's putting everybody in place? This was a top 25 defense last year in college football. For my money, it was a top 15 defense in college football at its peak. They made sure that Missouri had ample opportunities after opportunities after opportunities to go ahead and strike. And they have a core foundation in place. What are the actual requirements to get on the field for Corey Batoon? They can be that team. I have no doubt about it. They feel like that they're trending in that direction even now because of what is returning. But can everybody on the defensive side catch up to speed? Can you feel like that your team has done enough when it comes to fortifying its transfer portal additions, that everyone is speaking the same cohesive language going into week one? Because I'm going to tell you right now, when you look at the schedule, Missouri's defense is going to have to be its backbone early on. Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, and UMass. All 5 games are winnable. There are 2 trap games in that matchup. Every single one of them is at home before the bye week, and then you take on Alabama. By that South Carolina game, you expect Pabula, you expect Jamal Roberts, you expect Ahmad Hardy, who is a phenomenal running back, to be hitting their stride, taking that next step forward for the offense, building that relationship with Kevin Coleman, Marquise Johnson, Joshua Manning, Brett Norfleet. You expect the offensive line to be stable. That South Carolina game is the matchup that you're circling, where you want the offense up to speed. But can your defense make sure that Kansas doesn't find their way into the end zone? Central Arkansas is headed back to the natural state with a natural disaster of a loss. That Louisiana isn't raging Cajun its way throughout Fairhope Field and kicking your ass to oblivion. And then can you do that against Alabama? Can you establish that culture on the road against Vanderbilt and Auburn? 2 close calls last year to where your offense was able to get the job done. Maybe now your defense is going to have to step on up. If Missouri's defense can be not elite, just slightly above good, like great, Tony the Tiger says, I think that Missouri's in well lined to go ahead and be a 10-win team. I'm not sleeping on the Tigers. I don't think you should either. But real quickly to recap, number 1, what is Bo Pabula's ceiling? Number 2, who can be that secondary receiver opposite of Kevin Coleman? And number 3, what's the next step for the defense? If those 3 questions are answered, I think Missouri has a very good shot at making it to the college football playoff. But let me know in the comment section down below, what are your overall thoughts? What are your questions for Mizzou going into 2025? Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure you're following us on the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson, MIZ. It's your shot to go to the college football playoff. Peace.